Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Shane Pyers, and my topic today is peer review, society sphere. It actually encompasses a lot of what we're doing today as we're all critiquing each other. SAT is some form of critique, right? Because it's telling the colleges how the students are as a student, right? And I stand for the importance of receiving constructive criticism. So my proposition is why as students we should want our work to be peer evaluated and reviewed. Also why we should not be reluctant to receiving criticism from peers or instructors. So critique. As soon as we hear someone's going to be reviewing our work or looking over it or have to do something like this, we're instantly in fear. What will someone think of our speech? What will colleges think of our performance? Bullying. What will people think if I post this picture? What are they going to write on my picture, or are they going to like it or not? So we're instantly predisposed to a fear aspect of it. So as students, we're constantly subjected to review, criticism, and various other forms of feedback. It poses a question: do we use this criticism to improve our work, or do we neglect the comments and move forward with our initial thoughts? So you're pro-abortion, right? Or pro-choice? So if we were all like, if you're completely wrong for that, abortion should be illegal, would you take all of our feedback and change your mind, or would you stick with your initial thought?
I'd probably stick with my initial thought.
Okay, so you're not like many others. So specifically in this class, all of our speeches have been evaluated by our classmates. But how many of us use these comments to improve our future performances? You're the only communications major. Not many of us are in majors that require public speaking. So how many of us actually value each other's comments, such as what we're all writing about each other right now? How many of us are actually going to use them to improve our weaknesses and improve our speeches? Not many. Okay. So the credibility. There are various forms of credibility for this argument. From a personal standpoint, I'm split into two opinions. The first being that I have neglected comments given from both students and professors alike in a stubborn mindset that my work is perfect. Secondly, I have received peer review of my work in courses such as auditing, as I am an accounting major, in which I use the comments made by my peers to improve the structure or practices that I will implement in future assignments. From a research perspective, the results vary in the form of psychological and sociological background. As students, we all exhibit a competitive characteristic that makes us reluctant towards feedback or comments. For example, the way we view other students is on a scale of who performs better than us, and in turn, who are we better than? So how many of us look at each other speak and say, I don't stutter as much as that person, I present much clearly, I have a better PowerPoint? Not many? Are you constantly comparing yourself to other students? Yeah? Okay, one person. Me too, yeah. So, as soon as we receive a comment or some type of critique, our immediately thought is, wow, is that a good positive? The feedback was, wow, nice presentation, keep it up, or that completely sucked. We think about, is that positive or negative? So, I want to change the general stigma and attitude of those who cannot accept constructive criticism from their instructors, let alone fellow classmates and peers in the topic at hand. The recent condition has been my personal observations in various classroom settings of how fellow students are generally frustrated and angry when they receive some form of evaluation from an instructor or fellow classmates. This poses a question: why do we view these evaluations as some form of comparison between our work and the reviewers in a way that would offend us or make us feel less intelligent than the evaluator? So, from an instructor's standpoint, when they're performing a review, we as students are much more likely to accept feedback or corrections from instructors for several reasons. First, because they are the instructor and we know that they have some form of advanced knowledge on the topic in review. Also, because we know that the instructor has the ability to determine our success in the classroom. Therefore, we are much more willing to accept the criticism as we'll create a plan to ensure success, such as receiving the minimum C or better in this class just to get through it. As stated by Pat Hensley from the teachingmonsterpractices.com, when receiving criticism from an instructor, students impart a role-playing behavior on themselves in which they listen to the instructor's comments in the sheer fact that they are students and the teacher must know more than them. This study shows that our reasoning for accepting judgment from an instructor rather than a fellow student is simply because we want to succeed in the eyes of the teacher. from a classmate's perspective, performing a review, we are so reluctant in receiving criticism and subjecting our work to peer review by classmates. The problem is solely in the fact that we would rather not put ourselves to subjection by our classmates. For example, if a fellow classmate were to find numerous errors in our work and we would not be able to reciprocate the action, such as reviewing their work, we would find ourselves less intelligent than the evaluator. This poses a conforming idea in our mind that if we were to pick a topic that the reviewer does not have the knowledge of, we would rather do that. In contrast, if we were to pick a topic that all of our classmates were knowledgeable of, we would feel deterred from doing so. So if I was to pick a topic that, you play volleyball? So if I was to write a speech on women's volleyball and I knew nothing about it and you had to review it, I'd feel deterred to do that topic. I'd ask her to change the topic. I would say I'm too scared of what she's going to say about it. It creates this idea in our minds that if I was to pick an idea that would cause a positive response rather than picking a topic that would be subjected to criticism, I would go with the generally confirmed topic. An example of this would be talking about why we should help homeless people. A generally debated topic in which general consensus consists of helping the homeless, rather than picking a topic on why homeless people are homeless to begin with. According to Samantha P. Lumbert, Rochester Institute of Technology, we as a society alone base many of our actions on factors when presenting a topic, such as correctness, social acceptance, social identity, and alignment with significant groups. This study shows that we base many of our decisions on actions that will be socially accepted, such as in this case, which many students will choose the topic of helping the homeless, anti-abortion, because they know the general acceptance will be greater than if they were to choose a more controversial topic. So this is like an example of professional. This is all of us waiting to be reviewed. So how peer review can be beneficial and detrimental? Specifically, how can we change the general view of critique? First, comments and criticisms have been part of the educational and cultural society as long as thoughts have been made public. In social media, this is shown in that every thought we share can be liked, shared, or commented on. And in reality, this is a form of peer review. A reader giving their thoughts on something you have presented. We all have comments to make, whether they are correct or not. Someone will always have something to say. In reference to that, the generally understood concept I would like to discuss is why as college students we feel disrespected or angry when classmates or peers make comments about the work we produce. Is it because of our competitive nature to excel and be the best in comparison to others? Is it because we cannot stand the thought of having someone in the same class excel when we're failing? According to Kim Lahan-Sandro at entrepreneur.com, we comment frequently on others on outlets such as Facebook strictly as a means of comparing their experiences to ourselves in a competitive standpoint and to conjure up what we think is accepted or taboo. So basically we comment on pictures or like pictures if they relate to us and if we can relate to them. We're not going to comment or like something if we think it's weird or we disagree with it. So this reiterates the proposition as how peer review can be beneficial and detrimental. If a behavior exhibited by an individual is generally accepted by their peers, we are much more likely to reinforce that action and perform it again. Therefore, we get good feedback on something we've done. We're more likely to try to get that feeling again from our peers, which would prevent us from picking a topic that could be even better or detrimental to us. So this is going to go with what I'm saying next. However, if it is neglected, if the topic that we pick is neglected and negatively commented on, we are struck with anxiety. We begin to question ourselves on how we can change, whether or not the comment was accurate. From a student's perspective, this is clearly demonstrating on how others view our work. If many in the classroom were to disagree with my topic, I would feel reluctant to continue my speech or argument and would rather opt for the more generally accepted speech. Secondly, with all that was discussed, this poses many questions and thoughts in our heads. In the case of peer review, there must be solutions on how we can change our demeanor towards this. And there are. First, if we are dissatisfied with the opinions made by our classmates, we may reference the expertise from an instructor. So if I was dissatisfied with the comment one of you were to make on my speech, I would recheck with the instructor if the comments were reasonable or if they were just out of pure spite and hatred. The word choice is, the power to change this stereotype lies in the speaker of the comment and the receiver. The word choice the criticizer makes could be said in a kinder or less aggressive way, and the listener does not have to interpret the critique with the connotation of disrespect or the intent to do so. In other words, keep an open mind to comments, listen closely and respectively, rather than avoiding it face head on, rolling your eyes, thinking of the improvements that can be made, and think of why you're receiving the negative feedback in the first place. So, in the case of bullying, it can affect us deeply and emotionally if we read the comments on our Facebooks and Instagrams and say, oh my God, this person hates me. But if we just take a step back and think of why they're making the comments in the first place, we'll see that it's just out of pure stupidity and ignorance. It has no validity, so why are we accepting it? So who's in charge of changing this, and how can we? What can we potentially receive from peer review? The individual student is in charge of this. We receive the words and interpret them in a way that would either come across as helping us or attacking us in the form of our intelligence. The power to change the stereotype lies in speaker and comment receiver. Okay, so peer review is an exceptional way of improving one's work, especially when the assignment being reviewed pertains to one's interest or area of expertise. So if we're all performing an assignment on something we know we have a strong knowledge and background of, the peer review would be much more positive. This is because we know that knowledge is at an advanced or even expert level in comparison to ours. This can be seen in peer reviews such as medicinal journals, business articles, case studies, and various others. So in conclusions, as students, we can possess tunnel vision on certain topics, especially if we are not familiar with them. Therefore, a large portion of ideas and thoughts can go unnoticed due to focusing on one topic. Let's broaden our spectrum and horizon and pick things that will challenge our peers. As we've discussed, the positive and negative of peer review and criticism, we should all have a deeper, more understanding of the thought process and commenting next time we are subject to evaluation. Thank you.